I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Thursday, January the 21st, brought to you in part by Norbrook. Their product, norfenicol, a broad-spectrum antibiotic for BRD complex, is easy to use with a thinner viscosity, has a plastic hanger bottle you can hang right there by the chute. You don't have to worry about it breaking, you don't have to refill it over and over, and they've got a shorter sub-Q withdrawal period than many comparable products. Check out norbrook.com. Shrugging feed costs. We've been talking for the last 3 months here about how these grains, your corn, your soybeans and everything have just shot up and got significantly higher, a lot higher than what we really thought. But they were overbought there, and so we realized that, and they've started backing off now since we've got further along the new year and through some of the political process there. But now your grains have been down for significant days in a significant amount here, but still they're high enough to make cost of gains a lot more than what we've been used to for a while. But your feeder cattle futures continue to go up, and folks continue to buy them in the cash markets plenty high, and higher than what really pencils out. And we've talked about that on many of the last few visits. But as we're going forward, it looks like we've got some positivity out in the front. The back months on your feeder cattle and live cattle futures look pretty promising out there. So we're just shrugging off these feed costs for the time being. Of course, a lot of us are worried about a lot of our input costs with fuel and everything due to the change of administration. Will yet to be seen, but we can bet that interest is likely going to be higher. Fuel is likely going to be more expensive, and so how we cope with those things going forward, that remains to be seen. Cattle on Feed's coming out this Friday, and we do have the estimates from the analysts that put those together, and they look promising to me. It looks like we've got room. Several of the last months, they've come in with kind of a promising cattle on feed estimate that's friendly towards the market side. Well, it's hard to live up to those. And it doesn't really matter what the cattle on feed report is. It's just what it is in comparison to what your analysts thought it was going to be. So whenever they forecast it to be that friendly, it's hard to meet up to it. But I think this month we might have a chance to have a friendly one and not be out of the ordinary. But you look at your inventories on January the 1st, cattle on feed, 99.5% of a year ago. So it's lighter and not at 100 or over 100. So I think that's going to be a positive just in the report itself. But I think that we can probably foresee that being on the friendly side due to the placements. But we know we've got a lot of cattle on feed. And as we get through this first quarter, that's going to tail off in a big hurry, guys. So we've got that to look forward to. But we just had so many fewer feeder cattle selling this fall that I think your placements, they've got those cranked up there, December placements at 97.1%. I think we could come in lighter than that. I don't know how much lighter, but it sure wouldn't surprise me to see it around 95 or just a pinch lighter than that. We saw some pretty big runs in your auctions in December, yes, but the total number of cattle moving, your auctions are a pretty good test of that. But we did see people kind of waiting and selling cattle there right before the holidays. But I think as we saw from the start of the fall, all through the meat of the fall, we just had lighter numbers of feeder cattle selling, lighter numbers of calves selling in the southeast primarily, and that adds up to be cattle on feed and placements of cattle on feed, and I think we have room to be positive on that. Your marketings are fairly positive, 100.6. Now it might be a little hard to get up to that, but usually they don't miss that within just a couple tenths of a percentage point, so that shouldn't be a big deal. Looking forward, that's going to be on Friday. Your cattle inventory report comes out January the 29th. Now that's one we've been kind of waiting on to give us more confirmation that we've got lighter numbers in our cow herds, and we know that's been coming. I think they were at least a year or a year and a half late, showing that we peaked on those and started coming off. So I think when we get that cattle inventory report, yeah, it might only be 1% or something like that, but it's going to be more confirmation that we've got lighter numbers in our herds. That's what your big investors want to see. They want to see confirmation, and a report with USDA stamped at the top is kind of what they're looking for. So should get that at the tail end of the month. Let's talk about your feeder cattle futures or live cattle futures first. February live cattle up 2 cents on Wednesday at 113.35 on the settlement. April down 47 cents at 118.87. You go out and out front from there and they were down, but not a lot. Down 2 cents to down 57 cents. January feeder cattle up 90 cents at 135.30, and I'm kind of like you. Where are we seeing all this positivity with grains as high as they are? But they're showing to be pretty stout. March feeder cattle up 72 cents at 137.52. Going out from there, and they were all positive, up 40 cents to up $1.12. So the powers that be are seeing some bullishness in this feeder cattle futures, and I think, or I know that your feeder cattle futures are just a derivative of your live cattle futures, but we are seeing such a premium in your back months of your live cattle. That has a lot to do with what our feeder cattle are doing, closer up front here. But let's look at your fat cattle trade. Iowa, which has been having a tough time selling their cattle, and I tell you guys, you need to get help with that. You need to find a cooperative marketing group to help you sell those cattle, so you don't have to see so many of them selling off the market. We saw a big rush of heavy cattle selling out of Iowa, a couple of thousand head, which is significant enough. Heavy cattle selling at 105, that's a long ways off the market, and also noted that a lot of those cattle were going into the Southern Plains packers to fill their needs down there, and we are seeing a premium for Southern Plains. They're shorter on their market ready supplies than the North is right now. Nebraska, they started selling some cattle, but they've got a lot of cattle to sell here on Thursday and on Friday, but only 900 head, and that's all they've sold so far this week. But they were all at 109, which is not terrible. That'd be $1 to $2 lower, and that's your trend throughout, even in the Southern Plains. Kansas had a big glut of cattle sell on Wednesday, 10,100 head from 108 to mostly all 110. That'd be $1 to $2 lower also. Texas, 2,300 head, and I heard of more cattle than that selling in Texas. Probably didn't get them all turned in for confirmation, but those will show up as we go on through the week. But live sales in Texas from 109 to 111, but mostly all 110 there also, and that's sure $1 to $2 lower. Box beef cutout values were higher again. I tell you what, they are cranking up the price levels on this wholesale beef, guys. Choice cuts on Wednesday afternoon, $218.91, up $1.42. Selects up 84 cents at $207.28. That they've gained a significant amount since we've got through the holidays and into this new year. I mean, significant amount. Slaughter is on par with last week, but disappointing to a year ago. 349,000. That's exactly the same as this point a week ago, but we are expecting to see another big Saturday, and we've been seeing that since we've gotten through the holidays, so we'll catch up a little bit. But so far we're down 18,000 to this point midweek compared to the same week a year ago, and that's not very encouraging. Talk about what else is going on. You can tell I'm not at home base. I'm out here at Nevada Livestock Marketing, Fallon, Nevada, expecting a big sale. About 6,000 head. They've got several long strings on there. Got about 3 or 4 big consignments of Red Angus feeder steers and calves there. I tell you what, there's going to be big demand for those. I tell you what, there's been some moisture out in California, and so they're starting to come in wanting some of those hard desert calves. You can view and bid that sale on dvauction.com. Starts at noon Pacific, so you guys can settle down in the middle of the afternoon out there in the central time zone and bid on those cattle if you want them. Tell you what, you'll love the quality, you'll love the condition of them, and we brought in extra help to take those internet bids, so don't worry about getting behind on that. Let's talk about your feeder cattle market, your real-time index on DV Auction. Late in the day on Wednesday, sitting at 133.22, actually up 75 cents compared to the previous day's close there, and we just seeing a pretty good market out there. Now we're caught where we're seeing trends kind of up and down and unevenly steady a little bit here and there, and it's just kind of depending on what kind of sale they had last week. But cattle are selling right along for as big as the runs are. We always see big runs this time of year, but we saw several people wanting to get sold before the new administration comes in. We talked about that. Oklahoma National Stockyards had 17,500 head on Monday. I heard several people talk about they wanted to get done before Inauguration Day, which was Wednesday, and before any kind of executive orders were signed. We didn't know what he was going to do. It looks like he signed about 18 of them, just trying to undo everything that Trump got done during his 4 years. But so far it doesn't look like anything so significant that it's going to change our markets overnight. But look at some of your big sales on Wednesday. OKC West, El Reno, Oklahoma, 11,000 head there, and kind of a uneven trend there. Called feeder steers $1 to mostly $5 lower. Now that's a big hit on your feeder steers, but then feeder heifers $2 to $4 higher. They've got a good crew that calls the markets there for Federal State Market News Service. I trust that trend. Why do you say the feeder steers are that much lower and your feeder heifers are higher? Well, it tells me that it's not from northern interests, because when the northern interests go down into Oklahoma to buy feeder cattle, they're mostly looking for steers. They don't prefer, your farmer feeders especially, don't prefer to sell heifers. They don't want to have to deal with the MGA and all that kind of thing. So they're usually looking for steers. So it's telling me it was mostly Southern Plains buyers. So didn't have northern interest. Also, they're not worried about them getting a quick gain, because we're talking about having positive markets in our back months of our live cattle futures. So it's not going to bother them if they're not gaining like the steers do. If they can get those cattle bought, and they're very price conscious about that. So digging in on the heifers quite a bit. Calves selling steady to $2 lower for the most part, and that's just kind of a given there. Winter livestock, Dodge City, Kansas, 3,800 head there. They had a very confusing trend as far as Federal State Market News goes, but they called the big feeder steers weighing over 8 and the peewee steer calves steady to $3 higher, but your middleweight feeding calves and lighter weight short yearling cattle selling $3 to $4 lower. Then they called heifer calves 3 to 500 pounds, $2 to $5 lower, and 5 to 700 pound heifers, $2 to $5 higher. Surprises me we'd see that big of swings just hinging on particular weights. So I pulled our automated market report out of Cattle Market Central. You look at that, and your best tested weights on there sure seem to be, for the most part, higher. Now you guys, you take that as you will. You can use your own judgment there, but you compare those weighted average prices in those well-tested weight groups, and most of them sure look higher, with the exception of those 7-weight steers, and those are heavily dominated by big calves this time of year, so that explains a lot of the weakness there. But pretty good sale there at Winter Livestock in Dodge City. Anyway, how about Torrington Livestock Markets in Torrington, Wyoming? 6,700 head there. The only really comparison they had was on calves, and they were $2 to $3 lower. Sure believe that, but my gosh, look how some of these bigger feeder steers were selling. They didn't have a good test of those the last sales. I didn't call a trend on these, but I'm going to say these were sure holding their own. Look at this individual quote out of Torrington: 100 head, 828 pound steers at $141.75. That's working $8 or $9 higher than your index levels, guys, on steers that are weighing over 8, weighing over pinch over 8 1/4 there. Man, that's a hell of a price on some feeder steers there. How about Bassett, Nebraska? They had a sale. It wasn't none of their whiz-bang sales, but pretty good sale for anywhere, but maybe not up to par as one of your Bassett specials. But 2,800 head there. They called the steer calves unevenly steady. Heifer calves steady to $5 lower, but they still have impressive quotes there, or it wouldn't be Bassett, Nebraska. How about 89 head, 626-pound steers, bring 162. We haven't seen this week or last your smooth 600-pound steers able to reach 160. They had some over 6 1/4 sell at 162. Very impressive quote. But the best quote that I saw anywhere on Wednesday, and your Zach Tran top quote for the day, come out of Winter Livestock, Dodge City, Kansas, 104 head, 517-pound steer calves, bring 180.75. And that's your feeder flash for Thursday.